There is a brand new family film that is hitting Netflix this weekend, and I'm really excited to talk about this one because, well, this movie was really kind of boring. Let's just get to it. Welcome back, film fans. It is Brad from Let's Be Real Brad, and today in the channel, I want to talk to you guys about the brand new fantasy adventure film called Slumberland. Slumberland was co-produced and directed by Francis Lawrence, who has directed many of the Hunger Games films and I Am Legend. The film stars Jason Momoa and Marlo Barkley. In the dream world of Slumberland, a young girl works with an outlaw to see her late father again. So I had the opportunity of checking out this film early, as I had no expectations of what this film was going to be about, as I hadn't seen a single trailer for this film, as I usually don't with Netflix movies. After watching the film, the only thought that I had in my head was the fact that this movie feels like a Disney live-action remake of one of their classic animated films, as it features a very boring, mediocre story that just does all the basics you would come to expect. It also doesn't look very good with a very high budget, and that the animated film is 100 times better. And it's a really hilarious that I thought of that after watching this film, because when I was doing my research of the film, I realized that this is based off of a 1920s comic strip, and there's also a co-produced Japanese and American 1989 animated film that has a cult following ever since it bombed in theaters. It looks like a really great animated film, and it seems like that's what this movie probably should have been, because this movie just is really boring. I know I said this movie is a family movie, but I wouldn't show this movie to kids maybe 10 and younger, because this movie deals with a lot of dark themes about, I don't know, the young girl losing her dad at the beginning of the movie that is in the trailers. It's literally the plot of this movie, and she goes into this dreamlike land. It might be a little too dark for younger viewers, and this movie does have some very dark aspects about it, and that is something that I really did enjoy. It reminded me very heavily of Steven Spielberg's Hook. That movie didn't get a lot of good reviews when it came out, but over time it is a cult classic and everyone loves that movie. But it's a really dark and serious movie, and it's almost just made for adults, and this movie has a lot of those similar things. So let's just dive into some of the positives that I had first with the movie, and I do have to start with the performances. Jason Momoa and Marlo Barkley are easily the best aspects about this film, as I really enjoy the chemistry they have one another, and especially Jason Momoa, who's definitely playing a very over-the-top, silly character, but he just fits this character so perfectly. I also found that Marlo Barkley was really good in this movie, especially for a child actor. She really gave it her all, and I think she has a really bright future. This is also Marlo Barkley's first film that she's ever been in, unless you count Spirited, that they both come out the same weekend. How does that ever happen? That's gotta be a landmark. This movie does have a lot of very fun, magical moments that are sprinkled throughout the movie, and there's a lot of really good creative ideas in here that are probably from the comic strip and maybe even borrowed from the animated film, as I really liked a lot of the aspects. They feel so magical and interesting and very different from a lot of other family films. Not all of it looked all that good, because the visual effects in this movie are really bad, and that's something I will get into later in the video, but I did feel like this movie does have that magical aspect that kids and families can really gravitate towards. I feel like a lot of family films don't ever want to get this dark and deep, because, you know, movies are supposed to just be entertainment to some people and it's just an escapism, but sometimes we need to go back to those dark places, and this movie isn't afraid to do so. Unfortunately, I have a lot of negatives with this movie, and the first main one that I gotta talk about is the visual effects. All the visual effects in this movie are really mediocre, as they all look really fake for the most part, and even some of the animal creatures look okay, but it really looks like a Disney live-action remake movie that has very subpar CGI, and it's just all very dull and boring looking, and there's no real great color to this movie. I just felt very bored while watching this movie, and I think a lot of kids aren't really gonna enjoy this movie. I also really enjoyed the real world stuff more than the actual dream world of Slumberland, because everything in Slumberland just looked like they were on a green screen the entire time. I genuinely did not believe any place they were actually at. It literally looked like Shark Boy and Lava Girl from like 2005. And one of the biggest negatives I have with this movie is something I've already mentioned before, but this movie is so damn boring. This movie just feels like it wants to be this really dark and deep movie that goes past those family movies and feel like Hook without the magic, without the great direction, with a very boring cinematography and just feeling like a studio made movie. It doesn't really commit to either or, so it feels like a tonal mess all around. While I did feel a lot of emotion for the characters and really enjoying the performances, I just couldn't really get with the Slumberland world. Overall, Slumberland is a massive disappointment that features a $150 million budget but looks like a $30 million budget trying to be a big movie, as all the visual effects are very mediocre, the story is boring, the look is so dreadful to look at. As I really enjoy the performances and a lot of the dark and deeper themes of a family movie, this movie just doesn't feel all that interesting and it feels very forgettable. I'm giving Slumberland a 5 out of 10. Thank you guys so much for checking out my review of Slumberland. As if you guys haven't already, hit that subscribe button, leave a like as you should, and ring that notification bell so you can never miss a brand new video of mine. Have a good one.